A lot of times, the country's judiciary system gets its hands on the wrong guy, who didn't even commit any crime, but the proof of innocence has never been easier to submit. Many times, innocent people can't even prove their innocence, but when they do, they burst out into million-dollar reactions that are worth watching. Well, in this video, we'll share with you the top 5 crazy reactions while innocent was set free. Number 1. John Bunn. He was falsely imprisoned for 27 years for murder, and although I've lived in Brooklyn, New York, I've always been innocent. Bond, who was just 14 years old when he was detained by NYPD officer Louis Scarcella, subsequently served 16 years in prison before being released on parole for 11 years, during which time he continued to fight for his innocence. Finally, due to Detective Scarcella's misconduct and the fact that there had never been any justification for an arrest in the first place, his conviction was reversed. After 27 years of battling for his innocence, he was ultimately freed. He is dismissed for life, but not before spending a brief moment with the judge in the courtroom. A violation filed a lawsuit against Detective Scarcella and the city of New York. Number 2. David Ronta. He was imprisoned for 22 years in Brooklyn, New York for a murder he did not commit. Louis Scarcella, a detective, apprehended Ronta. Yes, Scarcella is involved with yet another erroneous conviction. Mantle was the shooter, according to police lineup done by Scarcella. But decades later, the main witness allegedly admitted the investigator had given him instructions on who to choose from the lineup. No tangible evidence connected Ronta to the murder, and the jury was reportedly given manufactured evidence. After that, Ronta was found guilty and given a sentence of 37.5 years to life in jail. But after serving more than 20 years in jail, the former witness acknowledged that they had been coerced into making a case against Ronta. And right now, his conviction is being overturned. "I'm sorry for what you've gone through" would be an understatement, the judge said, and utterly insufficient. "But I still say to you, the defendant's request to overturn the conviction verdict is granted." He gave his family a bare embrace after having his shackles taken off. He leaves Freeman carrying all he has on his back. He allegedly earned $2 million from the state and $6.4 million settlement from the city of New York upon his release. Number 3. Susan Mellon. She received a life sentence without the possibility of parole based on false witness testimony. When she was detained in Los Angeles, California at the age of 42, she was on her way to grab her daughter a Happy Meal at McDonald's. But since she was accused of killing her ex-boyfriend, it would be the last time she would see her kid for 7 years. You are now being detained for murder. Only one informant, who claimed that Mellon had confessed to the murder to her, was used to support Mellon's guilt. She spent a total of 17 years behind bars. It has previously been shown to be an untrustworthy witness and a compulsive liar. Now is the time when the watermelon case is ultimately decided in favor of the plaintiff. The verdict was overturned, the conditional return is revoked, and the case is dropped because of Miss Mellon. When she was finally freed, she accompanied her daughter to McDonald's to present the much-anticipated Happy Meal, going from crying 1 minute to bouncing around the next. Mellon received $597,000 in compensation from the state of California, while Susan Mellon allegedly received $12 million from the Los Angeles City Council. Number 4. The next one is Luis Vargas. He received a 55-year sentence to life in prison for crimes he didn't commit. Vargas was charged with 3 sexual assaults while he was 29 years old and a resident of Los Angeles, California. Based on identical accounts of the offenses, police concluded that the same guy was responsible for all 3 assaults. Vargas was ultimately found guilty on all counts, and he served a total of 16 years in prison before the California Innocence Project conducted a DNA test on the last piece of tangible evidence and some clothing belonging to one of the victims. The results showed there was no match, establishing Vargas's innocence. When Vargas was cleared of all charges, he said something. When Vargas became a free man, his mother just gave him one straightforward desire. Let's read while eating a huge hamburger, please. Vargas reportedly earned $886,000 in state compensation upon his exoneration, seeking a hike while seeming professional. Number 5. Daniel Vegas. In El Paso, Texas, he was sentenced to 18 years in jail for a double killing he did not commit. When Vegas was 16 years old, an El Paso detective allegedly threatened him with beatings and death sentence if he did not confess. As a result, the young Vegas agreed to sign a written confession. A few hours later, he attempted to retract his admission, but it was already too late. He was accused of 2 counts of capital murder, and the jury's inability to reach a consensus was caused by the fake confession, which was the sole piece of evidence. After a second trial, the jury found Vegas guilty and sentenced him to life in prison. After an 18-year sentence, the judgment was overturned, and Vegas stayed free on bail while starting a family and getting married. Now, however, we are in the 3rd trial. In this instant, Vegas will learn whether he will be allowed to return home to his family or will have to spend the remainder of his life sentences in jail. Verdict Form B. In the case of Texas v. Daniel Vegas, the jury finds the defendant to be innocent, Vegas is now and no conditions apply to you anymore. You're welcome to go. According to rumors, Vegas has launched a lawsuit against El Paso. We can't help sharing 2 more cases that will make your day. One of them is Ricky Jackson. He was wrongfully convicted of murder and served more than 39 years in jail for the crime. Jackson was arrested when he was 18 years old and lived in Cleveland, Ohio at the time of the incident. The primary witness in the case was a child by the name of Eddie Vernon, who was just 12 years old, but claimed that she did not see anything. In addition, he claimed that he was being coerced by the police into testifying against Jackson, which resulted in Jackson's subsequent conviction. In the beginning, Jackson was given the sentence to die by being electrocuted. However, after serving 2 years on death row, his sentence was eventually commuted to life in prison rather than the capital penalty. Eddie Vernon, now 52 years old, came out with the truth over 4 decades later, saying that he never saw the murder happen even though he claimed to have seen it. After being falsely accused and unfairly imprisoned for 39 years, the charges against Jackson were eventually withdrawn. At this point, Jackson received word that he is no longer required to stay and may go. It is going to be okay for Mr. Jackson to go. This is a significant victory in a life that is filled with many smaller ones. I wish you the best of luck. Jackson has finally made it outdoors for the very first time in his new role as a free man. Jackson was awarded $1 million in compensation for the state, in addition to $2.65 million on income loss from the result of the incident. Then there's Kristen Lovato. She spent 16 years in jail for a murder she did not commit. At 18 years old, she was accused of the gruesome murder of a homeless man in Las Vegas. A retrial led to her being found guilty of the murder in the first degree, which was her original conviction. After spending 16 years in jail, she was tried for and convicted of the lesser crime of voluntary manslaughter. She was given a sentence ranging from 13 to 45 years in prison. At a fresh hearing, evidence was given that confirmed that the actual day of the victim's death occurred while Lovato was 3 hours away with her family. This information was submitted at the second hearing, demonstrating beyond a reasonable doubt that Lovato was not responsible for these offenses. This is the first time that Lovato has been able to go outdoors as a free woman. I feel overwhelmed. I get a giddy feeling. I feel grateful. I can't even express how delighted I am, she gushed. Lovato has filed a legal complaint against the Las Vegas Police Department, and the investigation into her demand for compensation continues. So that concludes our video. Please share with us in the comments below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and make sure to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one. Until then, peace.